In a study of real conversations between strangers, the person who asked more questions walked away more liked. So why does almost everyone try this and get it exactly wrong? Not the funniest one won, not the smartest one, the one who kept asking. And the questions that worked best were not clever openers. They were follow-ups, tied to the thing the other person had just said. You know the feeling. You leave a conversation and something is off. You did everything right. You had good stories. You waited for gaps and dropped them in. You were, by any honest measure, interesting. And still the other person walked away, a little cool, a little unmoved, and you cannot say why. Here is why. You were performing, and performance is exhausting to watch. The thing that actually makes people warm to you is small and almost boring. It is the sense that you heard them, that what they said landed somewhere and left a mark. Huang and her colleagues watched this happen again and again. Ask more questions, especially follow-up questions, and people like you more. The follow-up matters because it proves you were listening. It is evidence, not decoration. So the move is simple to name. Let the other person do most of the talking. Aim, loosely, for something like 80% of the words being theirs. Not as a rule, not as a measured optimal number anyone proved in a lab. Just as a target that takes the weight off you. When you stop trying to be the interesting one, the whole thing gets easier, and stranger, and better. And this is where most people go wrong the second they try it. Because the obvious version of this is a trap. You hear ask more questions, and you turn into an interrogation. Where are you from? What do you do? Any siblings? Question, answer, like a form being filled out. It feels productive. It is quietly awful. The other person can sense there is no one behind the questions, just a machine that needs the next field. Yeomans and his colleagues went back and checked the original finding in getting acquainted talks between strangers and in a field study of real speed daters, and it held up. More questions, especially follow-ups, more liking, but they found the sharper truth underneath it. The magic was never the number of questions. It was that a follow-up question is glued to the last answer. It cannot be faked in advance. It can only exist if you were actually there for what came before. Which means the skill you are building is not asking. It is listening so closely that the next question writes itself. Sit with how rare that is. Most of the time, while someone talks, you are loading. You are waiting for your turn, rehearsing your reply, scanning their words for a hook to jump in with your own better story. You are physically present and mentally in the on-deck circle, and people feel it. They cannot name it, but they feel the difference between being listened to and being waited out. So the first real move is to stop hunting for your entry point. Just track the actual content. Let one specific thing they said catch on something and ask about that. They mentioned they moved here 2 years ago. You do not say, "Oh, I moved once too." You say, "What made you pick here?" That is a follow-up. It is tiny. It changes everything because it tells them the last sentence they spoke did not vanish. There is a whole toolkit for this, and it is older than the research. People who train others in hard conversations use 4 moves, and they fit under one word: ORs. Open questions, affirmations, reflective listening, summaries. It sounds clinical. In practice, it is just the shape of a person who is genuinely with you. Open questions come first because they set the whole tone. A closed question asks for a fact and gets a wall. Did you like the trip? Yes. Now what? An open question hands the other person the room and lets them choose how deep to go. What was the trip like? Now they can give you 1 sentence or 10, and the choice is theirs, which is exactly the point. You are not extracting. You are making it easy. And you do not need to invent open questions on the spot. There are only a few directions they ever go. You can ask about origin, how something started, about emotion, how it felt, about meaning, why it mattered to them, about specifics, the actual details, about the future, where it goes next. Origin, emotion, meaning, specifics, future. Almost any answer someone gives has a door in one of those 5 walls. You just walk through one. But questions alone still leave you invisible. A voice in the dark firing prompts. That is where the R and the S come in, reflection and summary, and this is the part almost nobody does. Reflective listening means you say back what you heard, in your own words, to show it landed. Someone describes a week where the kids were sick, work blew up, and the car died. You do not rush to fix it. You do not change the subject. You say, "That sounds exhausting." 3 words, and something in them settles, because you named the thing they were carrying without them having to spell it out. A reflection like that validates the feeling without turning the moment into therapy. You are not their counselor. You are just a person who was paying attention. A summary is the bigger cousin. You gather up the last few minutes and hand it back. So you took the job, moved across the country for it, and now you are wondering if it was the right call. And then the small line that does all the work. Did I get that right? That question is not filler. It admits you cannot read minds. So instead of assuming, you check. And when you check, one of two beautiful things happens. Either they say yes, exactly, and feel deeply understood, or they say, well, not quite, and correct you, and now they are opening up further, and you are closer to the truth than you were. Notice what is happening across all of this. You are shifting the load of the conversation onto yourself, but not the load of talking, the load of tracking. You are doing the quiet work of holding the thread so they do not have to. That is what makes it feel good to be near you, and it is the opposite of an interrogation, because an interrogation puts all the work on them. Now, the reflection and the summary are also what stop you from disappearing entirely, but there is one more piece you need, and it is a small dose of yourself. Because it turns out, people do get something out of talking about themselves. Tamir and Mitchell found that self-disclosure carries its own reward. Sharing your own thoughts and experiences feels good, on its own, apart from anything you gain, which is a clue about why the person who lets you talk becomes the person you like. You are not just being tolerated. You are being handed something you enjoy. But be careful with that fact, because it curves the wrong way if you push it. It does not mean everyone always wants to talk about themselves, in every mood, with every person. Read the room. Some people, some days, want the opposite. The finding is a tendency, not a law, and it does not mean you go silent. If you never share anything, you become a mirror with no face, and that is its own kind of unsettling. The other person starts to feel exposed, like they are the only one in the water, so you offer a little. Think of it as the 10% that is you. A quick, real thing. That happened to me once. It wrecked me for a week. Then you hand the floor back. The 10% is not a measured ratio anyone proved. It is just a feel for the balance. Enough of you to be a person, not so much that you take the room. Here is a move that costs almost nothing and changes how people remember you. When someone tells you good news, do not respond flat. Someone says they got the job, they finished the marathon, their kid took a first step. The low-effort reply is logistics. Oh, when do you start? That is fine. It is also forgettable. Gable and her colleagues studied how people respond to each other's good news, and they found there are 4 ways to do it, and only one of them builds the relationship. You can be passive, a shrug and a nice. You can be destructive, poking at the downside. Or you can be active and constructive, which means you lean in with real, specific, hungry interest. Not just that is great, but what part are you most excited about? Tell me how it felt when you found out. You are not managing their news, you are celebrating it with them, in detail, and that is the response that leaves a mark. Their happiness becomes a thing the two of you build together, instead of a fact you file away. The same logic runs the other way when what they share is not joy but doubt. Someone tells you they are not sure about the move, the relationship, the plan. The weak move is to flinch away and change the subject, or to paper it over with "it'll be fine." The responsive move is to lean toward the uncertainty and clarify it. What part are you unsure about? That does not fix their problem. It does something better. It tells them the messy, unresolved thing they just admitted is safe here, that you will not run from it. And under all of these moves is a single mechanism, and it has a name. Reese and his colleagues call it perceived partner responsiveness, and they place it at the center of intimacy itself. It is the sense that another person understands you, values you, and cares. That is the whole engine. Not being impressed, not being entertained, being felt. That is why the talking ratio works. When they are doing most of the talking and you are reflecting it back, they are not just filling air, they are steadily receiving proof that they are understood. Every follow-up is a small message. I heard that. Every reflection is another. That mattered. And a review of how people communicate this found that listening is one of the main roads it travels down. You do not announce that you care. You listen in a way that carries it, sentence by sentence, until they feel it in their body. But you have to know when to stop, and this is the line that keeps the whole thing honest. Because everything so far can curdle into something ugly if you forget one rule. The point is to make talking easier for the other person. It is never to extract. The moment your questions start prying, digging for something they are protecting, you have left the road entirely. You are not connecting anymore. You are mining. So watch for the cues. If someone gives you one-word answers, once, they might be shy or tired, and a gentle open question can help. But if they give you repeated one-word answers, that is not a puzzle to solve. That is a door, closing, politely. The strong move, the respectful move, is to let it close, back off, change to something lighter. A boundary is not a challenge. Digging harder when someone is clearly pulling back is the exact opposite of responsiveness. It is you deciding your curiosity outweighs their comfort. And that is the tell that separates the whole thing from a manipulation tactic. A manipulator wants their words. A responsive person wants them to feel safe enough to offer whatever they choose, including nothing. The follow-ups, the reflections, the summaries, the little bit of yourself, they are not levers. They are just the natural shape of paying attention to someone you have decided is worth it. So try the thing that feels backwards. Walk into the next conversation with nothing to prove. Do not bring your best story. Do not hunt for the gap to insert yourself. Just get curious about the actual human in front of you. Ask one real follow-up, say back the thing they seem to be feeling, and let them have the floor. You will notice something on the walk home. You barely spoke, you cannot remember saying anything clever, and somehow it was one of the best conversations you have had in months, and they think so too. Because the deepest thing one person can offer another is not a good line. It is the quiet, undeniable proof that they were fully, actually heard.